Hey guys, got another unboxing. This is the Ruger LC Carbine in 45 ACP. Of course, comes with the README. PSA sticker, because of course I bought it on PSA. MSRP is a little bit over $1,000, but I just found it on Palmetto State for I think around $560, so I considered that to be a really good deal. We've got the bolt lock, chamber flag, M-LOK QD sling cup, and front sight adjustment tool. Little Allen wrench for adjusting. A standard Glock 13 round 45 ACP magazine. Ruger tag. This was slung around the trigger guard. And of course, the rifle was in a bag, but I've been playing with it a little bit, so. Alright, so I guess we'll start off with some of the basic specs and then discuss a few of the features, some of my thoughts on them, and kind of wing it. The Ruger LC Carbine is a compact, foldable, semi-automatic, ambidextrous rifle. It weighs about 7.1 pounds and has a barrel length of 16¼ inches. I hope you can forgive my amateur videography skills as I try to give you a good look at this rifle. Personally, I think it looks really cool. It's kind of like a little bit of a space gun. Nothing too special, but it's definitely unique in its own way. You can see it's got a full-length Picatinny rail, although maybe that's not entirely true, because the rail is actually split. Half of it on the receiver, and the other half on the front M-LOK handguard, which is completely removable. The stock on this rifle is not only ambidextrous, reversible, but also foldable via this little button on the side. And then to redeploy, you just got to pull it out, snap it back in. It's pretty easy to do while you're holding at the ready, I guess. But being that this is designed to be operated from the shoulder with the stock deployed, it actually becomes an NFA item if you try to use it with the stock folded. So don't do that. This is for travel only. Alright. So the stock is collapsible. I think it's got about 2 inches of travel, bringing it from a 2.5 inch length of pole to about 14.5 inch. I think the Ruger specs say 12.6, 14.6. The cheek pad is not adjustable. Got a little bit of wobble. In fact, the whole stock is just a little bit wobbly. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's just a little more wobbly than I would have expected or hoped. I did find when I was reading the manual that this is actually swappable with almost any other AR style mil-spec stock. This tube here, they call it the receiver extension, I think, because it's not actually a buffer tube, but it sounds like it shares the same specs as a standard AR or M4 buffer tube, so you could probably put just about any stock you want on there. I thought that was really cool. The fire control group is ambidextrous and almost completely reversible. What we've got here is obviously the magazine release, which is pretty standard. The safety selector. The safety selector is ambidextrous on both sides. This next lever is actually the bolt stop, which on the left side is right here, kind of like a lot of handguns, and on the right side is actually this button right here, kind of like the magazine release on an AR rifle. So I thought that was interesting. As far as I know, and it doesn't look like that's reversible. So if you're going to shoot it left-handed, you'll have to figure something else out with your other hand, I suppose. But the charging handle is also reversible, so you can swap this over to the other side. One thing that I do want to note is, while this rifle takes full-size Glock magazines, modern Glock mags have this little cutout on both sides for the magazine release. or the mag stop, whatever you want to call it, mag catch. Older Glock style magazines don't have a cutout on the right side, which means if you have older style magazines that you want to use, you can do that, but you have to have, hold on, did I get that backwards? Yeah, I think I got that backwards. The older magazines probably still have the cutout on the right side of the magazine, but not the one on the left. So just looking at how this catch works real quick. The little hook comes in from the right side, so they've probably got this stop but not that one. Anyway, the point is you'd have to leave the magazine release on the left side of the firearm, but you can use the older magazines. That's my point. Moving on. The rifle does have a, I'm going to call it a 6-slot short rail down here, which is pretty cool if you wanted to put on like an angled foregrip or something. And when I was thinking about that, it's actually pretty comfortable to hold the rifle just like this. You need to consider that the charging handle, I'm assuming, is non-reciprocating. If I pull this back and lock the bolt, the charging handle is actually on a slide plate, which tells me that it can move independently of the bolt. I haven't really looked this up yet, but I'm assuming that this is a non-reciprocating charging handle and you can comfortably hold the rifle just like this without any risk of bite there, so, or impeding the action, so that's pretty cool. So to talk about the trigger a little bit, the trigger has this integrated safety latch, which is becoming very common in a lot of firearms now. It feels all right. I mean, it's got a little bit of play. Maybe I'm going to try to estimate this again. Forgive my spatial dimensioning here, but probably 2 or 3 millimeters of movement before you hit kind of the first wall there, and then it gets maybe just a tiny bit spongy, but it's not bad. Moves for maybe another 2-3 millimeters, probably 2.5 millimeters before it breaks. The break isn't super crisp, but it's not the worst I've felt. This is definitely, I'd say, better than a stock Glock. So the reset, let's see, probably want to come off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe about 7 millimeters off before it resets. And it was just a little bit spongy, uncertain there, but maybe with some practice that has the potential to feel okay. So not terrible, not great, but. Next, the iron sights. I think it's really cool that this rifle came with iron sights on it, and especially flip-up irons. That's, you know, great value in my opinion. They seem okay. I don't love them. I don't hate them. I think maybe the only thing I wish, and I don't know if this is really possible, but this rear sight is kind of a little tiny peep sight, which is obviously better for precision. But I find that it's not quite as easy to look through as something like the Ruger PC Carbine, which has a rear loop, and maybe that's because the rear iron is much further forward, sitting on the barrel rather than the receiver. But just my personal thoughts on that. These aren't quite as intuitive as like M-Bus sights, because they deploy with this lateral button here only on the left side, so that's not ambidextrous, but you know, it's a very small issue to have, not really concerning at all, just something to get used to versus like the ambidextrous paddles that release M-Bus sights. As I said earlier, this is functionally a full-length pick rail on top, but it's actually split up right around here at the mating of the front, the upper receiver and the front handguard. So this whole section is removable if you take out these screws. If you wanted to maybe reduce weight, or you say, you know, hey, I don't really need this front iron sight and I don't want a barrel shroud up here, don't need it, whatever the reason being, you can take this whole assembly off, and then, you know, heck, you could probably move your rear iron sight or your front iron sight up here. It might work just as well, but I would probably, I'm going to leave this on because I like the option of having a 7-sided M-lock rail. I like the way it looks. I like that it's an effective heat shroud, although, you know, I don't expect to be shooting this enough to get the barrel that hot. But I like the way it looks. I like the functionality. Maybe put a sling slot on there. You just could if you want to. The barrel on this rifle is a threaded alloy steel barrel. It's got a .578 28 thread pattern with a 1/16 right hand twist on the barrel. It comes with this beautifully knurled thread protector. You can see on the barrel there, 45 auto. So it's ready to go if you have any muzzle brakes, compensators, suppressors. A little bit on the ergonomics of this rifle. I find it to be comfortable to hold. It's a little heavy for what it is. 7 pounds for such a short package is a bit much, but it seems like it's built like a tank. It has, of course, adjustable stock, reversible, foldable stock. For the most part, ambidextrous fire controls. It's got, you know, 7-slot or rather 7-sided M-lock front handguard. It's got a small rail down here for attachment of a grip. It's already got an inherently comfortable grip spot, I guess. At least I find that to be comfortable. And the pistol grip itself is, at least for my hands, very comfortable. You can see it's got this little groove here for your thumb to sit comfortably in. The Ruger stippling pattern provides ample grip and it's not abrasive. The magazine well, how do I want to say, chamfered, I guess, beveled. And then it's got this little lip down here, which can be either a boon or a hindrance depending on the size of your hands. For me, I've got kind of medium, smallish hands, maybe, and it actually feels, while the grip is comfy, feels like it's almost hugging my hand back with that little pinky rest there. So I find that to be very comfortable. If you have larger hands, that might be a problem because, you know, maybe your pinky hangs off the edge. But for me, that's great. I already mentioned the weight several times, but I wanted to talk about the balance point of this rifle. Let's say we do this with the stock collapsed, because I think that's how it came. But collapsed stock, empty magazine, the center of gravity of this rifle is just forward of the trigger, maybe like an inch forward of the trigger. Without, of course, now like I said, depending on your stock, size of your magazine, whether it's loaded or not, what type of ammunition you have, if you have a front handguard, or if you have an optic on here, that's all going to shift the center of gravity. But stock, the way it comes, is probably just barely right in front of the trigger. And so if you can imagine, you kind of feel that a bit when you're holding this with one hand and you've got 7 pounds right in front of your fist. It's a little bit of an awkward feeling, but you know, I'm not sure there's a whole lot they could have done with that. This is obviously a very beefy receiver. I already talked about, you know, 7 pounds seems like a lot for this little tiny package, but it's not terrible. I like it. I can't wait to get it out to the range and see how it functions, see how it feels. I'll probably customize it a little bit. I think I might put a Magpul AFG and a red dot sight on top, but let me know what you guys think. I hope I didn't miss anything. I'll probably drop it in the comments if I did. One more thing I wanted to do before I end this video is give you guys an idea of size comparison compared to some of my other foldable collapsible carbines. On the Ruger website, this says it's, I think, 30 inches, 30.3 inches or something, but I'm not sure. I'm assuming that means with a collapsed stock. I didn't really measure it, but you can see compared to my Kel-Tec Sub 2K, they're just about the exact same length. I would say maybe the Kel-Tec is 1/4 to 1/2 inch longer relative to the Ruger PC9, which is by far the longest rifle in the lineup here. Granted, the PC9 has a fixed stock, similar to the Kel-Tec, but does not have an adjustable length of pole. You can swap these little blocks out here. I only have one spacer in, but definitely not adjustable on the fly. And I think I put a Midwest Industries front handguard on this. I don't exactly recall, but that doesn't change its overall length. So you can quite clearly see that the Ruger LC Carbine is actually the shortest one in this lineup, and I think that's really cool. I'm always looking for more compact options, but let me show you what they're like while folded. So while folded, this tells a completely different story. The LC Carbine is actually the largest overall length versus the three of them. You can kind of clearly tell here the Kel-Tec takes it in terms of collapsibility, but you have to get some special attachments. These are M-Carbo attachments that I have on my Kel-Tec. I put a lot of modifications in that, but the Ruger PC9 even is shorter than the LC. Now, one consideration there is that both of these two rifles are incapable of operating in their present state, while this one is technically capable of being operated. Like I said, it's not supposed to be. That would make it an NFA item, so would not recommend, but just something to keep in the back of your mind. Most compact while extended, least compact while folded. So anyway, that was the last thing I wanted to show you guys. So there it is. Let me know your questions, comments, concerns. Let me know what you guys think. I'd be real curious to hear it. If you want to see something else, I know I haven't really showcased these two rifles at all, but if you want to see something from them, maybe a head-to-head comparison or a follow-up on the operation of the LC Carbine, let me know. Thanks for watching. Real quick, I thought of 3 more things that I wanted to tack on to the end here. So number 1 is that this stock is attached via a little tiny pick rail on the back here. I know there are several other firearms that do that. The only one off the top of my head I can think of would be the PC Charger. But so you can remove this whole thing and put on the stock of your choice as long as it's pick rail compatible. Number 2 is that this safety is usable even when the firearm is not charged. You can put the safety on. That's a big one for me. I can't stand it when the action has to be cocked and locked in order for you to put the safety on. I think that's kind of absurd. So that's really cool. And then number 3 is that this firearm is +P rated. I saw that in the manual as well. So just wanted to get those in there real quick.